So that way is somewhere. That way is somewhere. Maybe I'll look at the, Gaia. Are you flexing to the camera? Are you posing?
Yeah.
So, you want to get a quick hike in a half hour from Portland on a weeknight that still gives you a great view of downtown Portland and the Columbia River Gorge? Well, Angel's Rest is perfect for that. You don't even have to drive as far as Multnomah Falls. It's literally a half hour from Portland. If you're in Gresham, it's even closer. Don't leave any valuables in your car at this trailhead. Better yet, drive your most god-awful car that you don't care about even a little bit to park here. Break-ins are frequent. Use Google to navigate here. It's easy. There's overflow parking up the hill. Don't come up here on a weekend if you don't have to. It's crowded. You were warned. This place is a madhouse on weekends. If you do have to come up here on a weekend, plan to get to the trailhead at like 6 in the morning or something. You'll find the actual trail across from the historic Columbia River Gorge Highway right here. Before we continue, if you're finding these reviews helpful, I'd like to encourage you to navigate to my Patreon link in the description to this video and consider helping me defray the cost of making these reviews. They are obviously a labor of love, but Premier subscriptions, travel, and camera equipment are not free, and I'd like to keep helping people plan great trips by showing them what to expect when they get there. Okay, onward forward. When you get to this intersection, turn left. The trail to the right just goes to the overflow parking. This is a wide open, very compact, very well-traveled trail. I'll confess that even though I've lived in the Portland area my entire life, this is actually the first time I've hiked Angel's Rest because I just keep driving right by it. I guess I've always known about it, and I've been well aware of its popularity, and I just figured I'd get around to it some other time. Well, I'm almost 40, so this seems like a pretty decent some other time to actually hike this trail. Starting out at a relatively low elevation and being on the wet side of the gorge, this trail has a very riparian feel to it. Being as popular as it is well developed. However, since it does traverse over rocky and uneven terrain while crossing over scree fields to the final rocky viewpoint, this trail is not appropriate for your family members with limited mobility. It isn't paved from top to bottom like the Multnomah Falls Trail, and you need to keep that in mind. It's popular and well known, but it's also still quite rugged. The first views out to the river open up less than a mile from the beginning, and even on a Monday night, we encountered a lot of other hikers, but these were weekday night hiker types. It was a very agreeable crowd. Seriously, hike this on a weekday if at all possible. This intersection here is with a short little trail that leads out to the Coopy Falls viewpoint. The Angel's Rest Trail kind of follows the Coopy Creek for a while. Stay to the right to continue on the Angel's Rest Trail. Keep an eye out for surprise wildflowers amongst the snowberries, dog's bane, and sword ferns. Going to the left at this little intersection will take you out to a view of a waterfall you'll barely be able to catch a glimpse of if there's any spring foliage on the vine maples. It's in there, you can definitely hear it. Continuing up the main trail will actually afford a better view of this little waterfall, so you can save yourself the time and effort unless it's fall and you're really looking for a photo. A little farther up, the trail encounters this totally unnecessary creek crossing. You do not need to and absolutely should not attempt to ford or hop across the creek here. There's too many of us hiking this trail for the creek to tolerate that many people walking in it. The state of Oregon has thoughtfully placed a bridge slightly upstream from here, so use the bridge to cross the creek. You do not need to play in the creek. So this looks like it's looks like somebody's been cutting the switchbacks. Huh. Yeah, don't cut the switchbacks, people. That's the trail. That's the faker cut line.
We should
real trail.
Booby trap it.
We should totally, no, we shouldn't do that. No booby trapping trails. Awfully spiteful. Also, quit cutting switchbacks. Stay on the main trail, people. You know this by now. As you ascend, you'll encounter more and more fire-affected forest along the trail. That's because this area was part of the Eagle Creek Complex fire that raged through here in 2017. That was the big fire that rained ash and burning debris on the Portland area for a week before the weather shifted and brought it to an end. Anyhow, the fire redecorated the landscape a little bit, and you'll get more glimpses of the river because of it. For the record, this area also burned in 1991. Lots of fires burned through the gorge. It's kind of a periodic thing. I mean, the Yakult burn from 1905 actually also started near Eagle Creek. The higher you climb, the more charred trees you'll see, but take note of something. There's really no giant old growth in here. On geologic timescales, the gorge sees catastrophic fires relatively frequently. As a matter of fact, most of the Pacific Northwest routinely goes up in smoke. Fires are the norm, not the exception. Knowing that helps me keep things in perspective. We saw this cute little ground-dwelling mammal while we were hiking this trail. I just wanted to point that out. It couldn't see us. The trail gets rockier and more exposed the higher you ascend, steadily increasing the level of challenge. In fact, the trail kind of turns into an actual scramble in a few places as you get nearer and nearer the top. You'll want to make sure everyone in your hiking party is comfortable with this kind of terrain before starting this hike. Angel's Rest tops out at about 1,500 feet in elevation, and it's rocky, has ample sun exposure, and receives a lot of moisture. You know what plant really thrives in rocky, low elevation environments that get ample sun exposure and lots of moisture? Poison oak! Look closely at this video. There's poison oak everywhere up here. I've got poison oak rashes all over me as I'm typing this because of this trail. Poison oak is like probably the biggest jerk of the plant kingdom, as not only does it take multiple forms, looking like everything from a bush to a vine to a small tree, but the leaves kind of mimic the shapes of the plants around it. This is evidence that the universe is in fact sentient and it's mocking us. Be careful. Wash all your clothes in hot soapy water after hiking this. There is poison oak growing right in the middle of the tread. It's all over. It's so bushy up here. I can't believe I didn't notice this. I didn't realize this was poison oak when I was filming this, and I should have known better. I've encountered this before. Anyway, it's all over in the gorge because the gorge has a lot of terrain that is just perfect for cultivating poison oak. It's really easy, by the way, to accidentally hike a little too far and go right past the turnoff to the viewpoint.
So I'm wondering if I better look at Gaia, because I want to make sure we don't like... Hold on. See there, so that promontory out there, we were supposed to scramble to the top of that thing, not keep going this way.
If you see this view from a little higher above it, you've gone too far and you need to backtrack to the actual Angel's Rest view. Unless you wanted to hike over to Devil's Rest. That's a totally reasonable option and kind of a fun hike as well, but outside the scope of this review. Obviously, it should now go without saying that you don't want to touch any of the encroaching foliage in here. Be very careful. As you get out onto the viewpoint, it becomes apparent why this hike is popular, and it also becomes apparent that it is the last place you should hike if you're looking for solitude. It's just not that kind of hike. I mean, look how tramped down the ground is here. It's well loved. There is a really cool bench here at the top of the trail. It's all graffiti covered, which should also give you an idea of how well frequented this trail is. You can actually catch a very nice view of downtown Portland from this bench if you're here on a clear enough day. So if you're a photography nerd, bring your big camera with your big zoom lens and your tripod. The fact that you're close enough to see buildings in downtown Portland, like you can clearly make out the US Bank Tower or whatever it's called, the big pink one. So you can clearly make out downtown Portland from here, which that to me illustrates how that Eagle Creek fire got way too close to Portland for comfort. So this doesn't feel like a backcountry experience because it is not a backcountry experience. It is a trail relatively close to the Portland area. I mean, one of the things I kind of liked about it was you just saw people who were just out for a little hike, not even a day hike, just an evening hike. There were people doing just their regular like trail running on it. So probably people who figured they didn't want to go jogging through their neighborhood today. So they just came up here to Angel's Rest and decided to jog to the top of Angel's Rest, 1,500 feet, 4.5 miles. It's not that bad. You can do that. Anyway, it has great views of the river, but it's not that many linear feet from the freeway, which also means that you can hear planes, trains, and automobiles the entire time you're hiking up this trail. That's normal for the gorge. Almost every trail in the gorge is like that, but I still liked it. It's very pretty. It's pretty. I'd still encourage you to hike this. Honestly, I would. I mean, yeah, you should. But hike it on a weekday if at all possible. Don't forget, by the way, to like, subscribe, and share. And I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters, especially my Loamy Goodness level sponsors, Taya Morgan Marbit, Randy Relaford, and Damon Corey, as well as my Hero Dirt level sponsors, Heather Van Valkenburg, Jason Moore, Pedro Cantarini, and Todd McCarthy. Navigate to the Patreon link in the description if you want to show your support in a material fashion. Now, lace up your boots and go take a hike.